Hello. Today, I'm going to respond to a popular video entitled, "No Code Will Fail." There's a lot to get to, so let's get started. Hi, today I'm going to respond to a popular video about no-code tools by Coding with D. The video thumbnail title is "No Code Will Fail." The actual title is "No-Code App Development is a Trap." I'll put a link to the video in the description. Be sure to check it out after you finish this video, of course. Originally, I thought I would go through the video and respond to sections one at a time, but after thinking about it, I decided instead to come up with a general response that outlines my thoughts on whether no-code tools are and will remain a viable option. This video is going to be longer than usual, so I'll provide timestamps in the comments so you can jump to the sections that interest you most. But here's an overview of what I'll talk about, who I am and what my background is, so you know where I'm coming from. A brief history of no-code tools. Then we'll look at important points from the video by Coding with D. Then the meat of this video, which is no-code development done right. And finally, some closing thoughts. There's a lot to get to, so let's get started. If you aren't familiar with me, I've been developing software since the late 1980s. In my career, I've designed and developed applications for companies large and small, from online family-run motorcycle dealerships to Fortune 100 companies and government agencies, such as the Department of Energy. I've been the chief architect and CTO of a software company, the application development manager of a division of a Fortune 100 insurance company, and I've taught numerous seminars on emerging technologies. I've also started and run several businesses, including a retail store, a contracting company, and a successful real estate team with my wife. I say all this so that you know that while I have technical chops, I also have business experience and a mindset. I believe that this combination helps me to have a balanced viewpoint on the value of no-code development. No-code is not new. It's been around in one form or another for at least 30 years. Years ago, probably in 2000 or 2001, I heard a speaker at a Java conference. He predicted that one day, the diagrams that we use to document and design object-oriented programs would become the way applications would be developed. We would just connect the objects on the diagram to create full applications. To some extent, that is where we are today. A commenter of the video in question, named DKKTSE, had the following to say: "I was in this space over 30 years ago. The platform is called IEF. It was what was called a fourth generation language with diagramming, point and click, etc. It generates third generation code such as C, COBOL, etc. Here's a key phrase from his comment. We were able to build enterprise-level applications using almost exclusively a no-code approach, with a small number of modules that are hand-coded." Continuing, he says, "The quality of the application is, in my opinion, extremely good, but you would not want to look at the actual code generated, as it is not meant to be maintained by humans." We'll get back to that word quality later, as it is a very important concept in this discussion. There's also business objects, which has been around for 25 years and has been extremely successful. The query designer is, at its core, a wrapper for complex SQL that allows non-programmers to create complex queries that just work. Other no-code examples are Query by Example, IDS, WordPress, Zapier. We have a blog article on our website that gives a very abbreviated history of no-code tools. I'll put a link in the description. Now, a few comments on the video. First, the video deals primarily with two platforms, Flutterflow and Bubble, though it seems to indicate that all no-code platforms have similar issues. Second, the video emphasizes that no-code is a trap. The reason given is twofold. The first is that most users of no-code platforms don't know how to code, and so they might not know what they're getting themselves into. They may not realize the platform's limitations until they have spent many hours developing their app. The other reason is that you cannot build good, a qualitative value, we'll get back to that, good, unique apps with no-code platforms, in large part because of the lack of customizability. It seems to me that the main issue presented is the perception that the no-code platforms use misleading advertising to sell their products. For example, Bubble's front page claims this: the world's only full-stack no-code platform. Design, develop, and launch production-grade applications without code. I may have a different view on this since I have created marketing programs for my own businesses, and I also never believe marketing hype. I don't really fault these platforms from featuring their no-code capabilities. And if you read the video comments, there are those that have successfully created apps with a platform with the no-code features alone. And while I don't think it is okay for companies to outright lie in their advertising, I also believe in caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. What I mean is I have the responsibility of vetting a system and whether or not it will meet my needs. But this is my opinion. What about the non-coders who jump on board thinking they can do wondrous things without knowing a lick of code? There I do have some concerns. I'm not directly familiar with either of the two platforms discussed in the video, but I get that argument. I'll say this. The no-code platforms that I use don't really bait non-coders. So the issue I have with the video here is the blanket condemnation of all no-code platforms. Going on, the video author then states that the codebase from FlutterFlow that she downloaded was terrible. She concludes saying no-code development platforms will always be second best to traditional coding. Another qualitative statement. This use of the concept of quality is an important pattern that we need to talk about. By the way, the comments on this video are fascinating with many great thoughts from both sides of the fence. I highly recommend reading them if you are interested in this discussion. So no-code is not new. It has been successful, but it doesn't always create the most elegant or performant code. No argument there. Why then the success? Very simply, these no-code platforms meet a business need. Sometimes, as software developers, engineers, and architects, we forget why we do what we do. Code should never be written for its own sake. It must have a purpose. And the overriding purpose of software is to provide some kind of business value. The design of the application and the code written must align to that purpose. WordPress is an excellent example of this principle. If you look at the generated code in a WordPress site, it's not pretty. It isn't as performant as it could be, and manual maintainability would be a nightmare. Yet, WordPress is fantastically successful. It runs almost 500 million websites. That's a billion, not million. Why? Because it meets a business need. Many millions of small businesses and individuals might not have a web presence without tools like WordPress. Yes, it is not as performance forward as well-crafted code could be, but it is good enough for the business need. Software developers, engineers, and architects, hear me please. Perfect is the enemy of good. What do I mean by that? Case in point, I was brought in to consult with a major client, a name you would know, on a web-based application they were building in-house. The application was nearing completion after some significant scope creep and cost overruns. Another consulting architect wanted to make it better and said so in a meeting with the internal business client. it would only cost another $100,000. His idea was, of course, shot down, and he left the meeting in tears because they wouldn't make it better. We can't have this kind of blindness to business needs. So rule 1 of doing it right is always focus on the real business needs. If the business needs can be met with a faster, more economical approach, such as using no-code tools, then those tools should be strongly considered during the design of the application. Before you cry, but those tools aren't scalable, understand what scalable means in the current context. And remember, there is more than one way to achieve scalability. Sometimes you can scale horizontally by adding servers, for example. So how do you do no-code right? First, you need to understand the needs of the client. If you are developing a shiny new iPhone app as an independent developer, then understand your needs and the needs of your users. Everything must match up to those needs. If you haven't taken the time to document the requirements, you can't measure your success, and you may overcomplicate or the opposite, miss things that are vital for success. If there are unknowns, then do your best to estimate the need. For example, if you think the number of concurrent users is likely to reach a number that requires writing carefully crafted code for performance, then you shouldn't be using a no-code solution. But if it isn't really likely, then maybe you should consider a no-code platform. Whether or not you want to use a no-code platform, spend time designing the app. Don't just wing it. Obviously, if you are creating a simple app that will take 2 weeks to develop, the effort placed here will be vastly different than if you are creating an enterprise-level app supporting tens of thousands of users that will take months to develop and test. Just put in an appropriate effort. In the end, you will actually save time. As part of design, choose your platform. Will a no-code solution meet the requirements? Will this specific platform provide what is needed? Don't just read the online hype or even what others say in social media. If you are unfamiliar with a no-code platform, or any platform for that matter, take time to do a real analysis of the system. Get a demo. Create a prototype. Start with the hardest, most iffy parts of the app and see if the platform can handle it. Of course, this assumes you have spent some time understanding the requirements. The danger, or rather one danger, of using no or low-code tools is that we get lazy and just shoot from the hip. After all, the tool is supposed to be easy to use, so why not just start creating? You can use the no-code tool to mock up your design, but keep it at a proof of concept level and don't spend hours bulletproofing the app. Leave that for after the concept is proven. Do pay particular attention to the tricky parts. For example, your voice assistant may have to interface with a CRM and an accounting system. Create those interfaces first. Can it be done in a way that is satisfactory? If not, then you've saved a lot of wasted time. Now fall back to another design option. Okay, now we need to talk about quality. Whenever I hear a developer use the word quality or something like it, I cringe. Why? Because quality is, well, qualitative and not quantitative. What I think is quality is not necessarily what you think is quality. In software design, the most important quality is, does this meet the requirements? If it does, and the code is not elegant, then arguing for more elegant code is counterproductive. Of course, code that is better written is preferable to messy spaghetti code, but even more important is the business need and economic impact. What is appropriate for a Fortune 100 company is not what is best for a one-person shop. Even a large corporation has room for applications that are not perfect in the eyes of technical geeks. I was hired by a power company to design an internal application for an engineering department. It turned out that their system of record for doing the heavily regulated calculations they performed was an Excel spreadsheet. When I found that out, I winced. Of course, we had to move that to a real database and application. Except that it turned out to be impractical because of federal regulations. The cost of rework was just too high. I had to compromise and work around this crazy spreadsheet. And so I found a way to integrate it into the application. Scalable? Not on your life. Did it work for them? Yes. I had to swallow my pride, and because I did, they were greatly better off using this new application than all the papers and folders they had used before. The video stated that no-code platforms will always be second best to traditional coding. With this, I wholeheartedly disagree. The code produced by a no-code platform will likely, at least for the near future, be lesser in terms of elegance, efficiency, and maintainability. But that isn't the point. If it meets the business need, then the perceived quality of the code is just one part of the evaluation. This is because quality is also determined by things like time to market, the overall cost of development, and the budget available, and the ease of transfer to internal staff. No-code tools can very often excel in these areas. So, use care when you think about quality. The code is there to support the business, not to stand on its own. Okay, if you've followed this advice so far, development should go fairly smoothly, though there are always bumps along the way. Do adequate testing and pay attention to any weaknesses that the no-code platform may have. Get feedback from end users along the way and adjust your design as needed. There you have it, some of my thoughts on no-code platforms. There's a lot more I have to say, and this won't be my last video on the subject. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please smash those like and subscribe buttons. It will really help us out in beating that YouTube algorithm. And ring that bell to be notified of new videos. We publish new content every week, so stay tuned. Have a great day.